Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Well, it's fight day. Ward Kovalev. I believe this is a dangerous fight. Very dangerous. I think it's more dangerous for Andre Ward. The bet I'm recommending is the under 10.5 rounds. You're getting that at significantly better than even money odds. Hedged with Ward by decision. I have a video up here from a couple days ago that explains the logic behind that pick. Just know the following, just some fight day thoughts. Andre Ward, after looking at the Ike Chilemba fight, talked to some reporters. I believe the video is someplace here online, or at least the interview. And Andre Ward said that he looked at Kovalev films and that he didn't see anything that Kovalev did that would give him problems. Right? Lennox Lewis, Carl Froch, and Froch fought Ward, are picking Andre Ward in the fight. Ronnie Shields, who went up against Andre Ward with his fighter, Edwin Rodriguez, is picking Andre Ward in the fight, as is Floyd Mayweather Sr. Right? On the other side of the aisle, the people picking Kovalev include Abel Sanchez. Now, people need to realize that Sanchez used to train Kovalev. The two guys had a falling out. Right? Sanchez is the one who ended the relationship, according to reports. He felt that Kovalev, right, wasn't listening to him. Another person who's picking Kovalev in the fight is Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach doesn't believe that Andre Ward is the same fighter that he was back during his Super 6 run as a 168-pounder. I'm sure if you dig hard enough, you're going to find people, who feel strongly one way or the other. Here's what I believe are the misconceptions on the fight. Right? I personally feel that Andre Ward is kidding himself if he feels that there's nothing special about Kovalev. Right? Kidding himself. Because looking at Kovalev, if you forget the power, and I know that's hard to do, but if you forget the power, there's actually a pretty good boxer there. Right? Kovalev has boxing skills. There's a distinct possibility that Kovalev outboxes Andre Ward in some of the rounds. Now let me talk about some of the criticism leveled against Kovalev. Why I feel that he's being a bit undervalued here by the public. Understand, Andre's making, according to reports, $5 million for the fight. 2.5 times what Kovalev's making. Now, as an aside, that just shows you how little money, real money, there is in boxing. Not that I'm a millionaire or anything like that. But this fight, arguably, if you believe the promotion, is to crown the pound-for-pound best in the sport. Right? It's two unbeaten fighters. Kovalev has a bunch of belts. Andre Ward has been among the very best in the sport, pound for pound, for several years. Now, you and I know an NBA player, right, makes this much money. Put it this way. If I were to offer LeBron James, an elite NBA player, $2 million to come play for my team, or $5 million to come play for my team, that'd be a slap in the face. That'd be an insult, right? I couldn't offer Mike Trout in baseball or Bryce Harper in baseball $5 million and have that person leave the room convinced that I'm paying top dollar. Now, many people are looking at this gate and they're saying, wow, Rock Nation is on the hook for $5 million to Andre Ward. How are they going to get the money back? It's a pay-per-view event. Well, that just tells you that boxing isn't on par financially, not close, with name the sport. Baseball, football, basketball, hockey, right? If the high-paid fighter in the pound-for-pound fight is making $5 million, right? Welcome to the post-Floyd Mayweather world, right? If he's making $5 million, then there just isn't that much money in the pot, right? The Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, big money purses, they only go to very few fighters. Very few fighters, right? Here, you have a champ with multiple belts in a fight against one of the sport's best. And Kovalev is making $2 million. Now, that's the first thing. But there's another side to the equation. Right? We're boxing fans. Just look at the light heavyweight division. Right? You have people like Adonis Stevenson. You have places, the Bell Center in Canada, right, that sell out for light heavyweight title fights. Kovalev could have gone in a lot of directions. A lot of directions. He's gone in this direction for $2 million, right? This direction. I believe it's because his trainer, John David Jackson, and him are coming to win. For them, this is an opportunity. The $2 million is a down payment on bigger things down the road. Right? Understand, when Kovalev calls Ward a visitor at 175, right? I believe he's serious. I don't believe this is hype. Right? You know what they say in boxing? You really get paid for your last fight. Right? I believe Kovalev wants to get paid for this fight, his next fight, by winning this fight. Now, Floyd Sr. points out that Bernard Hopkins was in his 50s, right, when he went the distance with Sergey Kovalev. Now, that's not true. Hopkins was in his late 40s, right? Trust me, I'm a gray beard myself. Up at that age, every year matters, right? He was in his late 40s. He wasn't quite the big 5-0 at that time. But people need to figure out that Hopkins was in survival mode, right? Somewhere along the line, maybe it's when he went down early in the fight. Somewhere along the line, Bernard went in survival mode at that time, right? Kovalev had never gone past the 8th round. So Hopkins is really there just to go rounds, make it to the last few rounds of the fight and see if the other guy is stamina drained. So Hopkins, over 12 rounds, throws, not lands, but throws a total of 195 punches, according to CompuBox. 195. Right? I don't believe Floyd Mayweather Sr. is being fair when he's pointing out that Hopkins went the distance. I'll agree, Andre Ward can go the distance if he only throws 195 punches over 12 rounds. It doesn't mean he's going to win any of the rounds. How many of the rounds did Bernard Hopkins win? Right? So I believe you need to throw out analysis like that. Carl Froch believes that Andre's going to win. Carl Froch talks about his own experience with Andre Ward. Right? You know, that experience took place at 168 pounds. This fight's at 175 pounds. Isn't it? Right? Let's go back to that Carl Froch, Andre Ward fight. Now, you remember Froch. Froch was a guy who, in many fights, the Jermaine Taylor fight, for example, would give away some of the early rounds, right, to save his energy so he could make an onslaught in the second half of the fight. That was a deliberate strategy by Carl Froch. So Carl Froch is in there against many opponents, George Groves, and Carl Froch is there early in the fight being cautious, right? Well, if you go to the last few rounds of Froch against Ward, right, some would argue that Carl Froch stages a bit of a comeback the last few rounds of the fight. Right, an argument can be made the last few rounds of that fight, Carl Froch was the one with a little bit more energy. Now, if that's taking place at 168 pounds, how are you certain that Kovalev is not going to, because of a size gap, right? We're one division up now. One division up now. How are we certain that Kovalev's not going to have more energy than Ward in those last few rounds of the fight? Danny Garcia's father is one of those who believes Andre Ward wins the fight. He points out that Andre Ward, right, when he was an amateur, when he was in the Olympics, fought at a higher weight than 168 pounds. The idea is, hey, Ward's a big guy too, right? Andre Ward didn't have Kovalev's punch at 168. Has he shown it to you at 175 pounds? Right? So, put me among those who believes this fight is close. I'm not buying the idea that Kovalev's just a puncher, right? Because I see the boxing skills, right? Look at the great balance he has, right? It's great balance. Look at the shortness of his punches. Look at the fact that he's two-handed, right? Two-handed. Ronnie Shields talks about Edwin Rodriguez. Edwin Rodriguez is one-handed. He's not two-handed. Nathan Cleverly, who lost to Kovalev before, but now has a share of the light heavyweight title. He wants Kovalev in a rematch because Cleverly's a warrior. But Nathan Cleverly is picking Kovalev in this fight. I want people to look at the condition of Cleverly after his fight with Kovalev. Right? Understand, the group that's picking Andre Ward, very few of them are picking Ward by KO. Very few. Right? What happens if Ward hits the canvas like Ike Chilemba did, like Bernard Hopkins did? Right? What happens if Ward hits the canvas and it's a 10-8 round? And then Kovalev is there, he's fighting. Andre is going to have to, if you're going to win by a decision, and coming back from a 10-8 round, you're down 2 rounds off the knockdown. He's going to have to, over the remainder of the fight, win 3 more rounds than Kovalev just to win the decision. And he's going to have to do that on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. Now, all of this is not to suggest that I feel that Ward is going to lose the fight. I do believe he can thread the needle. I do believe there's a way for him to win, but it has to be on the inside. Right? If I see spacing between the 2 guys, if I see Ward trying to fight him at mid-range or long range, right? If I see Ward trying to beat him on his back foot, I think Ward loses. Right? To quote Golovkin, Golovkin called this a 50-50 fight. I think that's about right, but let's face it. The person with the larger margin of error is the heavier punching Golovkin. Right? When you're a heavy puncher, you only have to be right once. Right? Golovkin just has to land flush once. Ward talks about the hardest puncher he faced being Edison Miranda. Right? Edison Miranda was one-handed. I'll agree. Ward faced a heavy-handed Sakio Bika. Right? That fight intrigues me. That fight went the distance. Right? That fight, really, if you're looking at fights where Ward's fighting a two-handed guy who's awkward, who's tough, right? That fight's interesting. But Sakio Bika didn't have Kovalev's jab. Right? Kovalev has a very good jab, folks. Very good jab. Right? Sakio Bika didn't have the boxing ability of Sergey Kovalev, who's far more than a puncher. And the version of Andre Ward that fought Sakio Bika likely beats this version of Andre Ward, who's still shaking off some rust. Right? So, of all the people out there talking about the fight, right, I find the people who believe it's a close fight, believe Kovalev is a live underdog. I find Abel Sanchez, I find Freddie Roach to be more credible here than Lennox Lewis, Carl Froch. Hey, those guys are idols in my book. Right? Floyd Mayweather, Ronnie Shields. I've appreciated Ronnie Shields' work from when he worked with Pernell Whitaker for years. Right? But I just feel that those guys aren't seeing things as clearly as Abel Sanchez is seeing things. I know there are many of you, I've read the comments to the earlier videos, I know there are many of you who feel that Abel Sanchez has some axe to grind with Andre Ward. Because there was talk of a Ward-Golovkin fight, and, you know, Abel Sanchez is trying to either market that fight in the future or diss Ward to elevate his fighter to the best pound for pound and stuff like that. But people need to understand, as I said before, he had a falling out with Golovkin. Right? A falling out. He didn't like the way Golovkin, who's a unique personality, conducted himself in training camp. Understand the type of person Golovkin is, according to reports. Right? He meets John David Jackson. John David Jackson makes some recommendations of things that he wants Golovkin to do in the ring, and then Golovkin goes in the ring and doesn't do any of the things. Right? But Jackson is one of these, you know, emotionally aware guys. He understands that Golovkin needs to be alpha, needs to do things his way, has a certain Frank Sinatra side to him, right? So, after Jackson makes a note of the fact that, you know, Kovalev isn't really following directions, Kovalev then in the ring starts following directions. But he's the guy who you can't tell what to do, right? As Frank Sinatra used to tell his friends, hey, don't tell me what to do, suggest what to do, right? The bottom line is, look, whatever the relationship, maybe it's just a difficult personality. I have clients like this, right? You say, don't call your wife, the guy calls his wife. Okay, fine. Look, you know, I'm sure Kovalev's a difficult personality. But please, let's not diss the guy's boxing ability. Right? Bernard Hopkins didn't win a round in that fight. Maybe he won one round. Right? But you have to search for it. Right? I don't buy this nonsense, too, that Floyd Mayweather Sr. is talking about. That Bernard and Andre aren't really the same fighter. Folks, they're the exact same fighter. You need proof? Bernard Hopkins fights Chad Dawson. Right? Look at the tape of that fight. He figures out that a high left hand can land on Dawson. Right? High left. Later, Andre Ward fights Chad Dawson. Folks, it's as if Andre Ward took Bernard Hopkins' game plan into the ring with him. He's throwing high lefts. Right? This reminded me of Holyfield against Valuev. Right? Holyfield moving around the ring. And then you have David Haye fighting the same fight against Valuev. The only difference is the judges got wise in the David Haye fight. So to me, when John David Jackson, who fought Hopkins, not late 40s Hopkins, but fought Hopkins in his prime, when John David Jackson says things like, Andre's excellent, but he's not as good as Hopkins was. Understand, he's talking about the same kind of fighter. Very savvy. Likes to come inside. Likes to put the head so close to you that some accuse him of headbutting. Right? You know, uses his torso strength. Wrestles with you a little bit. Can move around the ring. Hopkins, Antonio Tarver. Or can, you know, come inside, stay inside, fights you according to your strengths. Well, what was Hopkins' plan B and C against Kovalev? Right? It's relevant because only two guys have gone the distance against Kovalev, folks. Hopkins and Ike Chilemba. Let's talk about Chilemba for a moment. You know, Ike Chilemba has spent his career fighting world-class fighters. He's a world-class fighter. Right? Ike Chilemba to me is vastly superior. It's not close to Alexander Brand. So Kovalev fights Ike Chilemba, drops him. Chilemba gets up. It is only because Ike Chilemba is a crafty fighter with a lot of moxie. Right? You know the phrase cagey veteran. The guy who has been around, who has been in the ring with people like Tony Bellew. Right? It's only because of Ike Chilemba's pedigree, his experience, his savviness, that Ike Chilemba is able to survive the round with Kovalev. The fight could have easily ended there, folks. The same fight. The same exact fight. Right? Ike Chilemba's in there. It's clear. Ike didn't slip. He's dazed. He's confused. He's in there dodging punches. Quite frankly, the moment from when Ike Chilemba gets off the canvas against Kovalev to the end of the round is some of the best survival of a fighter this year that I have seen. Right? So, come on now. Yeah, Ike Chilemba went the distance with Kovalev. He lost a unanimous decision. Right? So I haven't seen the film. And I look at my share like everyone else. I haven't seen the film that tells me that this is going to be a one-way fight. I haven't seen the film that tells me that Andre Ward is going to come in and it's going to be apparent to all of us by the 4th round that Andre Ward has the upper hand. Right? Rather, what I'm seeing is a fight where both guys might have their moments. Right? When Abel Sanchez talks about body shots landing from Sullivan Barrera, he's right. I didn't think Ward looked that great in that fight. Right? Then when I see that Kovalev's only taking $2 million for this fight, that tells me this is an opportunity fight. That his side ain't here for the payday because the money would be there with other guys. You're telling me Kovalev, Stevenson wouldn't sell out the Bell Center? Come on. Come on. You know, you're telling me that if Kovalev came to Chicago and fought Andres Fonfara, that fight wouldn't sell out wherever they are? Come on, man. He's taking $2 million here because he feels he has a point to make, something to prove, something to gain. This is a dangerous fight. Take out a coin out of your pocket and flip it. Right? That coin has as much a chance of predicting who wins this fight as anyone here online or in the media. Right? The one thing I think I know is that casinos are making a mistake giving you a plus 160 on the under 10.5 rounds when you're dealing with a guy in Kovalev who's only gone past the 8th round twice in his entire career. Keep in mind, too, that if Andre Ward comes in, right, that was an Andre Ward right hand that stopped Paul Smith and dominates Kovalev, right, that under 10.5 rounds at a plus 160 gives you a chance to hedge, right, Ward simply to win at minus 137, right? So as I see it, because I'm a little bit more of a risk taker than just taking Ward to win, as I see it, the play here is the under 10.5 rounds at plus 160. Right? You need to invest in that because I'm telling you Kovalev has a chance. Hedged with Andre Ward by decision. Even Freddie Roach, in his analysis, in which he talks about Ward not looking like the same fighter, and how he feels nobody at 175 can beat Kovalev right now. Even Freddie Roach says if it goes the distance, he's expecting Andre Ward to win the fight. That's how I see it. This video might even be longer than the fight itself. But that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. It's fight day. I hope you leave your final comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.